Like, to me, it's the simplest shape. Like, it is a far simpler shape than flat, because flat still has a lot of unanswered questions. Where's the edge? What happens where you get to it? What's at the edge? What's underneath? You know, what does it look like from the outside? Why do the other things look spherical? Like, there's a lot of questions. But if you go to sphere with consistent curvature and it rotates around a pole,
might be your
like
bias
the other ones
playing
you can
in.
see.
That might be
Absolutely is my bias. Yeah.
Okay, because like I can objectively just try to put yourself in the shoes of early civilizations. Everyone pretty much I guess thinks or I guess knows that the Earth is flat or level sort of, and this one person comes around and says look at the stars, man. They're doing things that don't really make sense on a flat surface. It makes more sense if the Earth was round. I think all of us would probably look at him as a crazy person.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that sentiment that you hold a glass with water in it, you have a bowl with soup in it.
Yeah.
How could you ever conceive that maybe the bowl could be inverted and the soup still sticks to the outside?
Man, exactly.
You would just go, that's fucking insane. These people who reckon the Earth's ball are fuck. Because the story as we're told, absent any evidence for it, but the story that we're told is that sailors thought it was round long before the eggheads did.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with you that you would just be like, these people are fucking morons. Like, sure, stuff might pop up from over the horizon, but there must be a more rational explanation than we're all sitting on the outside of a ball. Like, the people on the bottom will be falling off. That's dumb. Let's move on. These people are retarded. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying, and I agree with it at a
kind of an extraordinary claim, Extraordinary claim.
Definitely an extraordinary claim that needs extraordinary evidence, because the gut feeling and the just sort of what you can see from where you stand on the surface, all of that stacks with flat. I agree with that. And if it didn't, A, this debate wouldn't be here, and B, smart people long ago would have said it. We all would have right from the get-go gone, well, obviously we're on a ball. Like, there would be... It's obviously there's enough there that smart people long ago and people nowadays question it.
The resurgence is
many of the people nowadays that question it are smart, and some of them don't.
Yeah.
Was ancient.
There is this anime called The Orb. If you're into anime, you should probably check it out. It's about how we sort of shifted from geocentrism to heliocentrism, and how even that is sort of a crazy idea to propose, but pretty interesting story.
So what are Puranic texts? Puranic means full or like pure,
Old.
doesn't it?
Old. Yeah.
Right. So the old, I'm Googling now, the old interpretations suggest a flat Earth model, which is exactly what they say, right?
Probably. Yeah.
Which is, I'm not suggesting it's therefore true. It's just that's, if the Earth is flat, that's what we'd be told about history, or if the Earth was a globe, that's what you'd expect.
Yeah, man. I think the ancient Indians were really good at mathematics, but they were more into astrology than astronomy. So.
Sure. Which as well makes sense, right? When these stars are in the sky, it's cold, and when these stars are in the sky, it's warm. Therefore, the stars that are in the sky make the seasons. It's not logical, but it is. You can see why.
Yeah, you draw conclusions based on what you're seeing, I guess.
So, what does Bhumandala mean? Mandala is like a flat circle drawing on the ground. What is the BHU at the beginning of Bhumandala?
What the heck? I have no idea.
Guys, Can I quickly say something? Has anybody noticed? Has anybody noticed ancient art paintings? The painter drawing flat level water. Anybody notice that? And also the paintings are very old.
It's a good point.
Yeah, the painter paints a flat level water, not curvature.
What paintings are you talking about?
And any ancient art paintings. Do you know what I mean?
Ancient art.
Yeah, really, really old paintings where the painter, the artist, paints the picture and also paints the water, flat level water.
I see.
Just find any old painting.
Like,
where it
are
shows
you talking
water.
like hundreds of years old or thousands of years old art?
Hundreds or thousands. I'm talking about very old, like 2, 3, 4, 500, or even more.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't see anyone making a globe. It's pretty much. I'm not seeing that.
That's because the globe is made up.
That is a good point, honestly, because like you would imagine at some point, artists would have attempted at sort of illustrating at least the globe.
Yeah, because everybody knows that water does not curve. The top of the water stays flat. It does not bend or curve.
Yeah, man, that's a good point. Dude, looking at old maps is always fun. So cool. You look at ancient maps, it's so crazy, man.
Yes, the wild things people used to think, like, or correct. Maybe they're right. Like Captain Cook wasted the last, like, third of his life sailing around trying to find a continent that people thought should be.
Really?
Yep. The Royal Society or whatever it was scrounged together money, and they decided that, and this is a funny one too, because the Earth is a ball and rotating, it couldn't be balanced if you had the continents as we currently know them to be, or believe them to be, or they are on the map, let's say. So there must be a fourth continent, which absolutely makes sense. It's again one of these many things where you're like, that kind of makes sense. Where you're like,
wait, what you mean it couldn't be balanced?
So if you just open Google Maps and set it to sphere mode and then turn it around, and you get South America, Africa, and Australia look like they are at like 3 points out of 4 on the compass, and then there is this enormous missing one before you go from, like, if you head east from Australia, there's just this unending ocean until you get back to South America, and their view was the Earth couldn't be balanced. It couldn't rotate evenly around its axis. If that were the case, so there must be another landmass there. So they sent him out there, and he just sailed for months and months, I think years actually, just doing big loops around the ocean.
It's fucking hilarious. But it is interesting that you don't see like a globe art really illustrated by anyone.
Yeah, it's Not a huge thing until the world starts to accept it, and then it's everywhere. Or we've been lied to about history and Mandela effect.
Of course, the human race has been lied to for hundreds of years. It's a bit obvious.
Fine, man. Good point. I wonder how much of the history that we currently know to be true is false, like fabricated.
Mm. Yeah, I don't think much is straight up fabricated, but I think there's a good chance we've just gotten it wrong involuntarily. Like, depends what you mean by fabricated, I guess. Like, I think there's certainly the issue that the winner writes the story, you know, and there's bits of this where they're like, you know, they've got ancient Egyptian kings where they're like, this guy said the king before him was a fucking idiot and never did anything, but we know based on other people's records that he built this enormous dam that was used for many generations afterwards, blah, blah, blah. Like, that we think this guy's lying, but you never get to tell. And you've got the problem of silence where if you go and smash all of the statues to that king and smash all the stelae where he wrote his achievements and then rewrite your own stelae, then how would we know? We've got no idea.
Yep. Like, for example, do you think like Buddha, let's say, was he a real person, you think?
Buddha, like Jesus, I think is most probably a real person, but
maybe
doesn't. I don't know. I don't know that for sure. Were they possibly completely fabricated? Yeah, fuck yeah, maybe. Why did I watch that? Oh, why did I watch that? Why did I? Oh. Do you ever like regret? You think I can handle shit, and then you're on some subreddits on Reddit, and you're like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't watch that anymore.
Hasn't happened in a while.
I'll give you a link. Do you want a link? I'll send you a quick link, and you'll feel that again.
Wasn't his name Siddhartha or something?
It was Siddhartha Gautama Buddha.
Yep.
Okay, so there's some pretty fantastical parts of that story. Like, if they'd have just left that out, would have been almost historical. Same as Christ, right? If he'd have said everything he said, right, and didn't perform miracles, people would be more inclined to believe it all.
And that's slightly
if he'd have said everything he said, right, and didn't perform miracles, people would be more inclined to believe it all.
And that's slightly Tao Buddhism rather than Zen Buddhism, whereas Zen Buddhism has Buddha doing all sorts of wild, more Jesus-y types of magical stuff, whereas Tao Buddhism is much more like, he was just a teacher. He was just somebody who we think kind of cracked the idea of what happiness and suffering is really about. And he never did anything magical. He was born by a woman. He wasn't special at all, like beyond what he said to us. Yeah, whereas what you're talking about is very true of the far more common version of Buddhism, which is Zen Buddhism, which is like, yeah, it's a very similar story to Jesus. He wasn't born naturally, you know, he never passed through his mother's birth canal, and he was able to levitate, and he had really weird earlobes and, you know, all this magical shit.
Lotus flowers would sprout up where he walked, and
that's it. Yes, yeah. I forgot that bit. Yeah.
There's another story about him crossing a river or something. Like, it's almost like, sounds like he like walked on water. I don't know, something like that. I can't remember the exact power.
Is there? I don't know that one, but I'm absolutely, I easily believe it's the case because I very much side with the Tao Buddhists that Zen Buddhism seems to be trying to turn Buddha into something magical because the true, as I would call it, the true Tao Buddhism is, I think, also what Jesus was trying to do. In fact, do you know this story? This is a really fun one. Do you know there is a theory that many Indians and many people like Thai, most Buddhists believe, is that Jesus was actually teaching Buddhism. So he's got his missing years, right, where he's got all these stories in the Bible when he gets to like up to 12, I think is the last story from his childhood. And then he just disappears and he comes back when he's 30. And there's this whole question of where did he go? And the first thing he does when he comes back is one of the first things he does is give the Sermon on the Mount. Oh, is it Sermon on the Mount or is that Moses? But like he goes and gives a sermon. And that sermon is very close to Buddha's 7 Noble Truths. Really strongly, like it used to just be about doing what God says. And then he starts saying, do what's right in your heart. And it used to just be about being part of his chosen people. And then after Jesus, it's about actually being pure of heart and committing good actions is what's important, and forgiveness and acceptance and tolerance and all of these things that are very, very Buddhist ideas. And at the same time, you can find stories from the East where people say, some weird Middle Eastern guy turned up during this time. And we called him Krishna, but, which fits with Hindu mythology of him possibly being a incarnation of one of their gods and blah, 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 blah. But they think he might have been teaching Buddhism.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too hard on that. Like,
it even goes further. Like, there's some will claim that he did a world tour, and he went and taught in South America, and I don't know about Australia. Not much said.
Yeah, Jesus came to America, correct? Like the Mormons believe he was in America.
Apparently, the South Americans have a tale of a guy just turned up like on this silvery craft right on the ocean, like just like it was like these waves and this like like a I don't know, like I can imagine a speedboat, right? The way they described it, and he's just turned up on it and just stepped off onto the shore and started teaching them, and they all worshipped him and shit, and he taught them peace and harmony and all this stuff. Stop sacrificing babies at altars and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the ones I quite liked as a theory too, because at that time in the Middle East, not many people swam because there weren't many seas nearby. And I was like, well, what if he went to India or Nepal, and while he was there, he learnt to swim, right? Which is not that remarkable a thing for India at that time. And then you go back to the West. How would you imagine trying to describe swimming to people where you go, it's remarkable. It's this remarkable thing where everybody we know, when they go into the ocean, they're pretty much fucked, right? They're dead. They drown. But he managed to like imagine I didn't have the word swim, but I was trying to communicate to you how amazing it was that this guy did that thing. I would end up being like, well, he was kind of on the water or in the water. Well, kind of, he wasn't going under it, so he wasn't in the water. And like, okay, so is he like floating? You're like, yeah, a bit, but he was making his way through the water. He was powering his way through the water. You're like, what do you mean powering his way? Like we walk. Yeah, like we walk. You know how we walk across land? He was sort of doing that in/on the water. Oh, so he's walking on water. And that became such a fantastical, wonderful story that takes over.
It's crazy, dude.
It's a bit of a stretch. I do appreciate that. I made it up myself. But it's an interesting idea, right?
It actually is. That's
He
pretty
just
funny.
did a swim and nobody could describe it well enough. And they got so excited about it. The other person's like, he must have been talking about standing on the water like it was a plank of wood.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, see, he was surfing.